Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I had about half a day or so of taking photos in Edinburgh last weekend with my brother, and I'm not gonna lie to you, we got pretty sidetracked by coffee and beer in various different pubs, so not as many photos as I'd normally get in about half a day of doing photography, but it was a really nice opportunity for me to take some images with this here K&F Concept Pro Mist Black Diffusion filter. All of the photos and B-roll throughout this video were shot using this filter. I didn't take it off my camera all day, and I'll talk a little bit more about this throughout the video, but let's run through some more images that I got on the day. First few shots of the day then here, I noticed this archway with a washing line on the other side of it, and I take this central image here and then move to the left and use the wall as a little bit of blocking and get a left side version of the shot, if you will. With both of those, I wish there was a little bit more light hitting that background where the washing line is, but then I go ahead and move off into the scene inside this archway and take this shot here, which I like a lot better. You can see some movement on the washing line with the clothes there as well, and you get a closer look at the beauty of the architecture around Edinburgh as well. So I really like this image, and then go and get a bit of a wider scene of the same scene, and this shot here really shows you the blooming and the highlight etherealness of using one of these filters. You can see the highlights sort of spilling over the top of the building there, and of course that look might not be for everybody, but I really like it, and I think it adds a little bit of something when you have got a really white sky like this, and just gives it a little bit of character to the image. This portrait orientation shot down the middle here was a nicer angle of the buildings and the little cut through there, but we really needed some more washing on the lines across here to make it something, so that shot's a little bit incomplete there. A couple sort of tighter crop detail shots, if you will, of the washing line here then, and I actually really like the landscape orientation image here. I think this is one of those images where I talk a lot about sort of human interaction with environments, but you don't always need a human present in those photos to show human interaction with an environment, so I really like this photo from that point of view. Next, I noticed this big beam of light that's coming from behind me and hitting the building in the background there, so I frame up a shot here that's kind of just, I guess it's a detail shot of the building and the shadows and the light more than anything. On days like this, just like my last video as well, I'm really looking out for these heavy shadows that can, you know, give you an interesting scene. But the more interesting part about this photo, I think, is the shadow of the street lamp. So I move over to this side and get a shot of that on the floor, but I still feel like it's missing maybe a little bit of something, so I tell my brother here to come and stand in it, and then I capture the shadow of the lamp with also a nice shadow silhouette of him stood in it, of course. It makes quite a nice frame. There's a couple more variations of it here in portrait as well, which work out quite nicely. So I noticed this couple here standing, taking in the view, and I take this image here, and this image in particular is a really great example of this filter not degrading the sharpness, because I hate it when you use a filter on your camera and it takes away almost the point of using that expensive camera in the first place. But this image is sharp front to back, shot at f8, and everything's in focus, and it really just goes to show the quality of the glass that you're putting on front of your lens. So what I was focusing on here mainly was the two people you can see sat on the bench down there in the distance, and of course the city view. And I took this photo, but while I quite like it, I think they're not prominent enough in the scene for it to be a point of the photograph. I've got a portrait version of it as well here as well, and that probably shows you even more that they're just a little bit too far away to have any real power in the frame. Next up, me and my brother decided to hop on to the monument that sits on top of Carlton Hill, and here I'm taking a few snaps of him in the distance, just enjoying the view between those two pillars. I take this photo here, and you're going to hear me in a minute tell him to turn around and face the other direction, because He's looking out of the frame with the least amount of space in this shot right here, which I've said many times on my channel. I think it's a much stronger image if they face the direction that has the most amount of space.
Face the other way. That way. Yeah.
I'm not that keen on the grass down here in the bottom, so then I do go ahead and take a shot where I cut that grass out and we have him kind of stood there. This one feels a lot more powerful. You can see the scale of those pillars a lot more, and I know they are wonky, but there's no way you can frame the pillars straight standing up here and then also have your subject straight and the horizon straight. And that's the situation you're dealing with, really. I could straighten them if I did some liquefying or something in Photoshop, but I don't think the little bit of skew wiftness really has that big of an effect on the image.
Get your own shadow look. Look.
So as you just heard me say there, I noticed that you could see this huge massive shadow on the floor from the monument, and that you can see your own shadow inside the gaps in the pillars as well. So I take this photo here of me and my brother stood in one of those gaps. Full disclosure, I did spot heal, clone stamp, remove tool, whatever I used at the time to get a few people out in the background, and then we got the landscape version shot of it as well, again clone stamped and all that goodness, to remove some of those people just because they were a huge distraction. And I'm very open about the fact that I will clone stamp a person out if I feel like it's going to get me a much better photo when I've traveled somewhere to take photos and I'm doing it for an artistic reason rather than a sort of a documentary standpoint. To the left of us here, I noticed these guys sort of hanging around taking photos of each other and just having a good time. So I of course take the opportunity to take photos of them taking photos. I get this shot here which I really like of the girl sort of laughing and looking up at me, and the white boots there on the step. But unfortunately there's that third figure there kind of in the way a little bit of that shot. So this could have been a really awesome image if it wasn't for that. I then go on to take this one, which is now got the person out of the image there, and I like this a lot. Gone for black and white because this image basically just had a green grass floor and no other color in it whatsoever, so I thought black and white will complement this the best. Okay, if you're new to black mist filters, what they do is help to diffuse and soften light across the scene. They help to create a dreamy and atmospheric look to images and videos, almost like putting very soft hazy fog in front of your lens, and most importantly in front of the highlights in your photos. They can massively help to make images feel more cinematic, and most importantly, depending on the strength of the filter you choose, they are very subtle. The last thing you want when you put a filter in front of your probably very expensive lenses is for it to ruin your photos with severe lack of sharpness, horrible color casts, or terrible vignetting. Which is why I think black mist filters are a really nice safe bet for people looking to enhance images, maybe give them a bit more of a cinematic and dreamy look without the danger of completely ruining them. They will decrease the contrast across the entire scene of a photo slightly. However, if you're somebody that likes really contrasty images and really punchy colors, then you can just dial that back in post. Me, myself, I tend to side with more subtle muted images, therefore for me it's almost like a dream combination. I opted for the quarter strength black mist filter for the one I'm using because I wanted the effect to be noticeable, but I didn't want to have to alter my raw files any differently to what I normally would. And from looking at the raw files that I took on this day of taking photos, I treated them exactly the same and they look out of the camera exactly the same, apart from those areas that have been affected by the black mist filter. So full disclosure, I'm not paid to talk about this product. However, K&F Concept are an affiliate here on my channel. I'm a huge supporter of their gear. I use their tripods and their lens adapters, but all opinions in any videos I make about K&F Concept's gear are very much my own. I'm not told to say anything, or I'm not told to speak negatively of any of their products. I'll leave a link to this exact filter in the description. There's also a discount code there that you can use for any products across the K&F websites, and those links do help to support my channel directly. So I'm just going to drop this filter in from the top. So here you can see I'm not screwing it on the camera. I'm going to slide it down and you'll be able to see the effect in real time, hopefully. And those highlights, that light, all goes blooms nicely, really softens out and gives it that hazy glow. So let me just pull that down and back up. And hopefully that does a good job of showing you what the filter does. Okay, so next we wander down Circus Lane, which I believe is one of the most quote-unquote Instagrammable streets in Edinburgh. I'm not really sure why so many people flock to this street. It's become one of those things where people go to Edinburgh and say, we've got to go and get a photo on Circus Lane. But anyway, we walked down it by chance because we walked past it. And I guess we joined the Instagrammers. And then coming up, this next frame I think is probably a bit better than the first one. I capture this shot here, and this almost has that perfect trio line of people running through it, but then we've got someone right in the background and someone stood with their suitcase there on the left. So that was almost spot on. And then same with these next two images. These were almost perfect images for me. This one probably could do without the woman on the right hand side here, and of course the people in the back messing it up a little bit. And then this one's even stronger than the last one. Again, if those people weren't in the back of the frame, this image would have been fantastic for me. Next, I noticed this bike here just leaning up against the fence. Nice autumn leaves down on the floor as well. So me loving this kind of scene, of course I walk over to take a photograph. And I think just in the top left hand corner of the frame here, you can see a real nice example of that hazy, soft atmosphere that this filter creates when you're taking photographs. You'll see me hanging out here for a little bit, and I'm really interested in this big group of women over here that are all sat in a line having their lunch, which is amazing to see, and I really wanted to get a photo of it, but I also didn't want to just stick my camera in their face while they were all having their lunch and enjoying their day. So I got posted up behind this wall here and I took this photo. And again, it's one of them scenes that had potential, but there's not enough light on the people, and although the idea and the thought process was there, the image just didn't come out how I wanted. However, walking off from that scene, I spot these two people stood together enjoying the view, swing around quickly, and I take this photo here. Now what I'll say about this, a lot of people, I've heard comments, read comments where people are like, oh, people always take photos of people from the back and from the distance and blah, blah, blah. And that's not, you want to get people's faces. And I disagree with that. I feel like a photo like this is a really nice image. Again, yes, you haven't got facial expressions to show emotion and tell a bigger story, but a nice image can just be a nice image at the end of the day. Almost back to where we started now, and again, this is one of those super quote-unquote Instagrammable places in the city of Edinburgh where you're looking over to Dean Village in the background there. And I wouldn't say this was necessarily like a spray and pray from me, but it was very much like if I fire the shutter a few times here, I might capture something that I couldn't anticipate and act on fast enough because of the sheer volume of people moving about here. So I get two frames here. This one, really like it. We've got the hair glowing there from the two girls, and then this one here where they've spaced out a little bit more. Finally, to cap off the day, as me and my brother are walking off to go and sit down in another pub now. I take a few shots of my brother sat in this stairwell here, and when I'm with someone I'm taking photos, instead of doing like a full-on portrait shot, I'm really into taking these cryptic photographs, and they're kind of me experimenting something for a project that I'm working on that I've spoke about before on my channel. And this one here where he's looking down at his camera and it's even more cryptic. And I enjoy the fact that their identity's kind of hidden. One of the biggest benefits I think of walking around and taking photos with your friend or a family member is the fact that you can include them in so many photos, and half the time they don't even realize. So here you'll see my brother walking off down the steps in the distance, and just as two people sort of align and allow my brother to sit in the middle, I capture this image here, which I really like. And then as they pass, I continue firing off the shutter and get this version as well. These two photos, and I don't know if they're very much swayed because my brother has moved to Edinburgh on his own and he doesn't know that many people, kind of sums up like person in a new city, isolation, like I don't really know my surroundings type of image. Okay, so the following shots, my action camera was off for all of them because I was preserving battery to make sure I kept it running all day for the remaining photos I was going to take. So I'm going to talk through these, break them down, and hopefully you get some good sort of tips and pointers from them. So this shot here of the guy taking a photo or a selfie. I'm not really sure which one he's doing, but again, I had to underexpose a lot here because you'll notice he's got that white jumper on, and that was picking up highlights like crazy on this bright sunny day. So I underexposed quite a bit and positioned the sort of horizon down towards the bottom and just really make that sky do some nice negative space work for me. We've then got a second version of that image, but this time he is turned around taking a photo of his friend or his partner, whoever that may be. And I like the contrast from the dark hoodie that they're wearing and the white jacket that they're wearing. I think that's a really nice combination there. Playing around with those huge shadows that the monument was casting again on the floor, but now from ground level, I capture this shot here with this guy. There is a lot of people in the distance of this photograph, but they almost blend in with the buildings from the city in the distance, so I didn't feel like I really had to clone stamp them out to make it a better photograph. Now this next one I love. I came here originally to shoot reflections in this window you see on the left hand side, and although you have got a bit of a reflection going on there and you can see that person in the left hand side of the frame, what I didn't realize would be a major subject here is this guy sat on the bench that came and sat down, and you've again got that city backdrop, and that area of the city there is being nicely lit up with that autumn orange light. Last but not least, I took this shot, and this is just one of them ones I'd probably throw up as part of a photo set. It would be incredible if there was someone stood in that window there. That is a cafe bar / restaurant type of situation, but it's closed unless you're a patron, and there was no patrons in there at the time, so there was no people to potentially stand in that window there for me. But I took this image. It's a nice one for a reminder, a memory, all of that good stuff. Alright, so what are my final thoughts on using this filter for photography in the long run? Is it gimmicky? Is it something that's just overhyped? For me, I really enjoyed it, and like you will have seen on the thumbnail of this video, which for once I created before filming this video, it's almost like having a little bit of secret sauce just on top of photos that you are already taking that are hopefully already fantastic. It's not something that's going to drastically change your images for the better or the worse. It's just a tiny, very subtle difference. And I think in the right place at the right time, it does make all the difference. And because of that, to benefit from the effects of this filter and having it on your camera, you probably are going to look out for scenes and light situations that are going to give you the effect that the filter will allow you to have. But then the pro of that is the fact that you can keep it on your camera all day long, shoot normal photos, not really think about it. It won't affect your images. And then when it comes to finding something where the black perimesh filter shines, it's there on your camera anyway and there to do its job. So yeah, highly recommend. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to check out a video just like this one and a few hours of morning cinematic photography, then check out this video right here next. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.